Well, good afternoon. It's an honor for me to be back with you for the third straight year for a couple reasons today. First, I absolutely love this building, and it's always feels special being here. And second, it was always a dream of mine to grow up and be either a director of the NPO, some NPO anywhere in the country, or a game show host. And so I get to fulfill both dreams today as I lead you through some really interesting audience participation. For what it's worth, my two heroes growing up were Bob Barker and Jeff Welch, and I think just about everybody in this room recognizes at least one of those names. And probably if you recognize one of them, you don't recognize the other, given the nature of our business. But what I'd like for you to do right now is find your gamepad, and it's just a hint, it's attached to your lanyard here. These are pretty simple devices to use. You can't mess it up. When we get into the questions, we'll do a practice real quick. You can basically vote as many times as you want during the time you see the clock ticking down. But what the receiver is going to do is just take basically the last thing that you enter before time is up. So there'll be a moment for your final answer. But everybody find their gamepad? Excellent. All right, so the warm-up question, I'm going to give you 15 minutes to answer it, and seconds. We're on a strict schedule this afternoon. 15 seconds to answer it. I don't believe there are any right or wrong answers, although some of you may disagree. So the first question for you, 15 seconds to answer. So what do you really think about the cicadas? All right, so 259 of you logged in within the 15 seconds you had, and most of you think, no worries, just part of nature. Next question, starting to get a little bit more personal now. Where do you live throughout the 10-county region? And because your devices only allow you to enter up to 10 responses, if you live outside the region, just pick the county that you wish you lived in. In 12 seconds. So 302 respondents. Looks like 45% of you are from Davidson County, with Williamson County coming in second, but pretty good representation throughout the 10-county region. What about where you work? And you got 12 seconds to answer that question. Starting now. Hopefully it doesn't take you 12 seconds to answer this kind of question, but 295 responses with 63% of you saying you work in Davidson. So 45% of you live in Davidson, but a much higher percentage of you say that you work in Davidson. Again, with Williamson County coming in second place there. Not that this is a competition or anything. Third question, a little bit more about you. Which of these best describe your current situation? 12 seconds to answer this one. Probably could have given you 15 or 20 seconds for this one. If you fall into more than one of these categories, just pick the one you think best describes you. All right, so pretty good showing from public sector employees, but pretty wide representation across the board with respect to backgrounds this afternoon. All right, now we're going to get into a little bit of trivia. Just do the best you can, but a lot of these are pretty easy, and you might see a trend as we get through the first couple of questions. But the first question we have for you today is, what percentage of Americans live in America's top 100 metropolitan regions? So of the top 100 most populous metro regions in the nation, what percentage of Americans live in those areas? And 10 seconds to answer this question. I think we had to pay extra for the Jeopardy theme song, so hopefully bluegrass is okay for you. All right, so 32% of you say 75%, 37% say 65%, which seems to be the highest vote getter there. 65% is the right answer. 65% of Americans live in America's top 100 metro regions. But surprisingly, 75% of America's GDP is generated in those top 100 metro areas, which are also home to the nation's largest amount of diversity with respect to minorities and immigrants into the U.S. Second question, how many people are expected to live in this 10-county Middle Tennessee region by the year 2035? So it's a close, almost a tie between answer C and D. The correct answer is between 2.5 and 3 million people by the year 2035. We're currently about 1.7 million people throughout the 10-county area. We expect close to another million people by the year 2035. And that means, though, by the year 2035, which is just a couple short decades away, we'll be bigger than the Portland MSA and the Denver MSA. Those present-day MSAs will be larger than those regions today. So that's gives you a pretty good sense of where we're headed as a region with respect to population growth. The next question is, how much does traffic congestion cost the region annually in wasted fuel and lost time? You all are pretty smart, but the correct answer is more than $600 million a year is spent by Tennesseans on wasted fuel and lost time as a result of traffic congestion. Spread out over the 25-year period that we look to with our regional transportation plan, that equates to about $15.6 billion that we would have spent on traffic congestion, and that's assuming gas holds at about $2.50, and we've already exceeded that. So who knows what that number would be if we don't do something now to sort of change the situation that's out there. Next question. What percentage of Middle Tennessee households spend 20% or more of their household income on transportation costs? Believe it or not, 90% of Middle Tennesseans spend more than 20% of their household budget on transportation costs. That's auto ownership, maintenance, parking, insurance, all those factors that go into paying to transport yourself and your family to and from work and the other places you want to go. And for comparison, looking at the same data, the Denver region their population spends about 4 out of 10 of residents in the Denver region spend about 20% or more of their income on transportation. And on average, Americans spend about 18% of their household budget on transportation costs. So we've got a ways to go to reduce the burden on our citizens with respect to transportation costs. Next question, how much does a wage earner need to make per hour to afford the median priced home in Middle Tennessee? Catching on to the trend, huh? Answer is E. More than $19 per hour is what you'd have to earn in order to afford the median priced home in Middle Tennessee. There's a chart there that shows you what the average hourly rate of police officers, teachers, and a few other very important occupations throughout the region, what they make relative to that $19.84 per hour. The median home price in Middle Tennessee these days is $165,000 and some change to buy that home. Next question, what is the estimated annual cost of obesity-related diseases to Tennessee residents and businesses? Tricked you. Answer is D. Tennesseans spend more than $2.7 billion a year on treating obesity-related diseases. And just for for comparison, that's about 3 times the amount of money that the state spends on transportation through TDOT's budget, just to give you an idea of how much money that is. Then you see there to your right, where Tennessee ranks in the nation with respect to physical activity and obesity for adults and children. And it's pretty alarming when you begin to understand the magnitude of the problem with respect to obesity and what it means for future generations. Next question, what is Middle Tennessee's leading agricultural export? Yeah, I thought D also. That's actually Tennessee's leading export, but Middle Tennessee, our leading export is cattle. And by the way, Tennessee produces about $2.8 billion worth of farm gate receipts annually. That generates about $78 billion worth of economic impact to our state's economy. Next question, how much Tennessee farmland is lost each year to development? So this is the average amount of acreage that's lost annually to development. Correct answer is D. Between 100,000 and 130,000 acres of farmland is lost every year to development. Between 2003 and 2008, Tennessee lost 8,000 farms, which accounted for 600,000 acres of farmland, which equated to about 11.4 acres every single hour. And then finally, how many companies have relocated operations to Middle Tennessee since 1990? Good job. The answer is D. Since 1990, 601 companies have relocated operations to Middle Tennessee. Since then, expansions and relocations have resulted in the creation of more than 233,000 jobs, increasing the per capita income by close to 30% over the past couple of decades. So with that, Gary, I think everybody's a winner today. I'll turn it back over to you to moderate the rest of the session.